Right, so, approaching the end of the year, and I say we're approaching the end of the year, we've got a month and a bit left, but finally managed to, or when I say finally, last night, basically, stayed up till 4:15 nonsense. Stayed up till like 4 o'clock in the morning, getting the fourth and not most recent and not final, but the fourth Stormlight Archive book done. And so that's what this video is going to be. I'm going to talk about Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, book 4 in the Stormlight Archive, the penultimate book as of ones that have been released. I'm going to be moving on to Wind and Truth next, which is one that I've heard the most criticism about. Like, obviously, this is still, and from what I've read so far, which is nearly all of it, I say that I've still got the chunkiest book yet to go, and for some reason, somehow, I managed to get Wind and Truth in like the nicest edition of a book that I have, and it might not even be that good, but I mean, I'm going to enjoy it, because if it's anything like Rhythm of War, the criticisms that people have had of it, I'm probably not going to have, or I'm not going to feel as harshly. I do have my own criticisms of this, but overall, Rhythm of War is the one that I heard. If you're going to read Stormlight Archive, you can probably stop reading at 3, or it goes downhill after Oathbringer, and where I don't think Rhythm of War has the moments, the individual moments, that there is nothing as cool in this as the climax of Oathbringer, and, you know, having that big, like, Avengers moment, or having, like, Dalinar shout, "You can't have my pain." There's nothing as like just raw and just cool in this. However, this doesn't feel like it's meant to be doing that. It's not like, this isn't the raw just cool stuff that the previous 3 books have been. Oathbringer, each book so far has kind of focused and kind of been charged fully, or charged like mostly through the POV of a different character. This one is the first book where, for the most part, primarily the POV character, or the main focal character of the book, isn't a Radiant, or doesn't become a Radiant until the very end of the book. And I apologise for spoilers straight away. I know people usually put the spoiler warnings at the start of videos. I usually warn of a spoiler after I've said the spoiler. However, I am probably going to go into spoilers here. This book centers around Navani and her self-doubt, basically. And you get to see her basically come into her own and kind of get a little bit of agency. And the thing that I really like about Sanderson, and I feel like he maybe writes women better than he writes men. Not to say that the male protagonists aren't as strong. Kaladin, obviously, as much as I feel like Kaladin has kind of taken a back seat from the second book or from even the first book, and that's totally fair, because Kaladin was, you got so much of Kaladin in the first book. And the first book was Kaladin's book, and the second book was Shallan's book, and the third book was Dalinar's, and this book is Navani's. It's Navani's and it's Venli's, but I don't think, but Venli doesn't get a big moment at the end. Navani does. And, so, but from what I've noticed, Kaladin just has less and less to do. From Shallan's big moments in Words of Radiance, she still had things to do and things to overcome. Kaladin's had that as well. He's been a depressed sad boy for 4 books, and he kind of gets over that. Or he, sheds the kind of sadness or the darkness that's been looming over him at the end of this book. And that's why I say that this book isn't about the big moments as much. It's definitely more about the quieter, intense moments, and this is the one that's going to make you feel more than any of the other books are. If you're invested in these characters in any way up to this point, and if you're not invested in these characters by book 4, you won't make it to book 4, basically, because I don't think any sane person can sit through 3,000 pages plus of characters that they don't like, and Stormlight is a book series, has always been a series that lived and died by its characters, and everything else is just like set dressing to showcase these kind of like these broken people that are just trying to get on. I do like that most of this book just takes place in the tower. Normally I would have an issue with that, but I think there's enough stuff where Shallan and Adolin go into Shadesmar and they do their own thing over there. Dalinar is fighting a battle somewhere else and he's doing his own thing, and then I feel like it cements Navani's character and why, and it makes you root for her even more. The fact that she is basically on her own for most of this book. The main plot device basically is the book starts with a cold open, and we're introduced to a new big bad in the shape of the Pursuer, and he ends up in this big fight at the start of the book. He ends up getting killed by Kaladin, and the Pursuer's whole thing is so the main villains, the Fused, their whole thing is when they die, they can come back. And the whole point of the Pursuer is when he dies, he comes back to hunt and kill whoever killed him, and also kill the family of whoever killed him. Obviously, he's now hellbent on hunting down and killing Kaladin Stormblessed. So that's Kaladin's story. Meanwhile, Kaladin is then We see our heroes go back to the tower, go back to Urithiru, and Kaladin is told by Dalinar, "You're done. You're too messed up. You're too depressed. You're too broken for me to say you're safe for battle anymore. You're resigned. You're being removed of duty. You're being taken off duty, basically." And Kaladin's like, "No, I don't know what I can do without my people. I don't know what I can do without Bridge 4. I don't know what to do." And he ends up becoming a surgeon. And that's Kaladin's story, basically. Is him kind of, for the first parts of the book, it's Kaladin coming to terms with the fact that he's not mentally well enough to fight anymore. He shouldn't be in the battlefield. And we're then halfway through the book. The Fused attack Urithiru. They take over the tower, and everyone inside the tower is under occupation from the Fused. Why can't the Radiants fight against this? Well, what the Fused have done to, and the Regals and the Pushendi, what they've done to the tower is they've essentially rendered it comatose. The Spren that's living inside the tower is rendered comatose, and all of the Radiants lose their powers and become unconscious, apart from Kaladin and Lift. Lift doesn't get that much to do. She's kind of chucked in a prison cell and then left to her own devices for majority of the book until the end, where she kind of has some stuff to do, but not really. So the rest of the Radiants are comatose. They're asleep. They can't do anything. Kaladin can't fight back. He's off duty. But the Fused are going to take Teft. Teft has been Kaladin's best mate. He's been there for Kaladin. He was the first one to find out that Kaladin had powers. So Kaladin can't just stand back and watch this happen. So he gets back in the fight, basically, and that's the catalyst to get Kaladin back into being like the man of action. Meanwhile, Navani is being kept prisoner by the leader of the Fused, Rabanil, and their relationship is weird because Rabanil makes it apparent that she doesn't want the war to go on forever, basically. And so she's like, this is a necessary evil. I want to work with you to create this thing, to be able to stop Odium, basically. And Navani's like, yeah, I'll help you to my own ends, because I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. And the Pushendi are quite heavy, so I can't throw you very far. But that's basically the point of what Navani's doing for most of this book. And as she's working, she's getting messages from the tower, or from the Spren that's inside the tower, which is cultivation, essentially. So she's talking to cultivation, and there isn't much to what Navani's doing outside of she's working, she's making things, and then Mo shows up, and he's like, we fast forward to the end of the book. Mo shows up, he's like, killed her fucking son. Why have you been keeping her alive for so long? I'm gonna fucking kill the queen. I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna murder her. And so this leads Navani to, and so, that leads Navani to basically ask or plead with Cultivation to bond with her. While that's all going on, Kaladin is fighting the Pursuer. It's an epic battle, honestly. When I say that there aren't any like really cool moments in the book, that's an understatement. There is still very much a Sanderlanche in this book, and it's still very, very cool. However, it is a lot more. It's not like a massive battle on a battlefield. It's a lot more intimate. It's just Kaladin versus this Pursuer, and then so Teft and Lift. There's a whole thing where Teft is able to get his powers back through Lift. Lift is able to basically heal the Radiants and bring their powers back. She's only able to do this for Teft at the moment, but Teft gets Lift into the room where they're keeping all the Radiants. Why you would keep all the Radiants in the same room, I don't know. But they go over to this blanket and they're like, oh, that's got to be one of the Radiants. We'll lift it up. It's Moshe. He gets up. He starts attacking everyone. He gets Lift in the legs, so she can't move. She can't do anything. She's basically clawing herself to the rest of the Radiants to try and heal them. Meanwhile, Moshe and Teft are having a big argument. Moshe is basically like, I can't feel anything. I'm going to kill you to test how far that goes. Also, got Kaladin's family back there. I thought killing them was going to make him depressed and make him want to kill himself, because the whole point of Moshe is he's been stripped of the ability to feel anything, and so his whole thing is he wants Kaladin to either become like him or stop existing entirely. To the point where when he talks to Kaladin at the start of the book, he's basically like, you've got to stop existing. And to do that, I'm going to make you so depressed that you just fucking kill yourself, essentially. So he then clicks in his head, I don't need to kill his family to make him do that. I need to kill you. And so, Teft has this big, not really big, but he has a moment where he kind of reaches the third ideal. And then, meanwhile, somewhere else, because it needs to be, when Navani ends up, completing her experiment, she makes a kind of anti-void light that's able to strip the fused of their void light. Caveat to that is it's also able to kill Spren. So Moshe had this knife that's filled with anti-void light that's able to kill Spren, kills Teft's Spren. Teft is like, what the fuck? What the fuck did you do? And then Moshe kills Teft. And it's honestly the saddest moment of all 4 books so far. Because, like I said, Teft is the guy who kind of introduced Kaladin to his powers. I was like, right, you are better than all of us. You are the best of us. And there's no argument with that. You've got to friggin' step up to your duty, basically, kind of thing. And Teft has been the best friend to Kaladin throughout this entire series, and now he's gone. And now he's dead. And when Kaladin's done fighting the Pursuer, he finds Teft's body, or Moshe, chucks Teft's body in front of him. And Kaladin just sobs. Kaladin just is is crying his eyes out, just bawling over Tef's body. And there's a few chapters where Moshe's just like, leave him, just leave him. You know, we want him either turned to our side or dead. And he's got to do both of those things himself. So Pursuer, don't touch him. Other Fuse, don't touch him. Just let him wallow in his own misery and let him become so depressed that he doesn't have a choice. And then Moshe brings out Kaladin's dad and plonks him with the Pursuer and just says, oh yeah, if he does miraculously get out of this bout of depression and does miraculously get up, snap his dad's neck. just fucking kill his dad. So this makes Kaladin get out of his, like, or not really get out of his stupor, but it makes him, you know, it makes him, like, leap into action again and just attach. He just takes the Pursuer, attaches him to one of the panes of glass at one end of the tower, attaches his head, or latches his head to the ground, makes them kind of pull away from each other, and the Pursuer's head just rips straight off. And yeah, that's moments like that are why I'm really excited if Stormlight gets an adaptation or something. The more I read of this series, though, is the more that I realise it needs to be a whole fucking Cosmere adaptation. Not just because the Dark Tower got turned into a movie, and that movie's terrible. I don't want the Stormlight archive to be adapted like the Dark Tower. I don't think Brandon Sanderson would allow that to happen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because Stephen King can't, control his own adaptions. Then I don't think Hollywood would listen to Brandon Sanderson, because he's a big name in the authorial space. I don't think he's that big a name in the Hollywood space at the moment. However, moments like that make me really want a Stormlight adaptation. That being said, and if they do adapt the Cosmere or Stormlight or whatever in any way, do it like the League of Legends show on Netflix. Do it like that. I want it to look like that, or a similar kind of amount of care and budget put into it as that. I think Stormlight could work as a live action. Like, if Lord of the Rings can work as a live action, then Stormlight can 100% work as a live action. But, and then, Kaladin ends up saving his dad and ends up finding his kind of inner peace kind of thing. And I know I said at the start of this that it felt like Kaladin had less and less to do. But it was Kaladin's story in this, Kaladin's plotline in this book specifically. A lot of the book is taken up with Shallan and Adolin going to going to Shadesmar. And as much as Adolin, before this book started, or where we left off with Oathbringer, where we left off with Words of Radiance and The Way of Kings, Adolin was my favourite character in the series, probably. It was a toss-up between him and Dalinar. I still really like Dalinar. But Kaladin Stormblessed, his arc through this book in particular resonated with me in a way that I didn't think it would. And I don't know if it was because of his relationship with his father, his relationship with his relationship in his mourning and finally being able to let go of the pain of losing his younger brother. Something about the conclusion of this book and the conclusion of Kaladin's plotline in this book really struck with me. More so than anything else in the series. Yeah. Adolin does get more to do in this than any other books before this. Yeah, he had a big action sequence in Words of Radiance, but this book makes, has several plot lines that kind of like bolster Adolin to make him way more of a front running character than he has been before. Previously he had been second fiddle to Dalinar. Now he's being prepped up to take Dalinar's place, or being stepped up to have more of that kind of to be basically what Dalinar wants him to be, essentially. Shallan's plotlines, yes, she's dealing with her multi-personality disorder and she's learning more about herself. I'll be honest, I don't care much for Shallan. She's a cool character, but her plotline isn't what's keeping me invested in the series. And that's why I say from going from this to Wind and Truth, I don't feel like I'm going to dislike Wind and Truth for the same reasons that a lot of people dislike Wind and Truth. Because a lot of people are saying, it's going to be a therapy session between Kaladin and other characters. And I like that. I like that Kaladin's going on to this. I like the fact that Kaladin is going to that point. Yeah, if that's literally 1,300 pages of Kaladin being a social worker, I don't really want to read that. I want a bit more action in it, and this is the perfect balance of that. But getting that final closure, because I'm sure there's going to be more stuff for Kaladin to overcome in the next book. But getting that final moment of Kaladin's acceptance of it's okay. The people around me are going to die, but that's not what's important. What's important is that they've lived, and it's the memories. And what's important is being there. It's not important to save everyone, it's to be there. And learning that lesson is, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I genuinely don't know why. It just did. Might have something to do with it being 4:00 in the morning. That might have something to do with it, but also did just hit me with like a ton of bricks. But anyways, let me know in the comments below what you thought of Words of Radiance. Let me know. I know I don't usually do these kind of I treated this video more like a recap of the events of Words of Radiance more than a typical review. And that's why the video is 30 minutes long. But yeah, I kind of had to for this one because yeah, Kaladin's plotline in this just kind of just hit me. And sometimes that will happen, and I was kind of waiting for it. And I thought, yeah, this is being primed up to do it for me. And I thought it was going to be Adolin more that I was going to get, like, oh, there's going to be a moment with Adolin that I'm going to fucking, like, just burst into tears with. It's Kaladin. It's fucking Kaladin. You know? And, yeah, just fucking... This one got me, man. So, yeah, if you're thinking about checking out the Stormlight archive and you're looking at reviews of the series, and you're like, Way of Kings reviews are great, reviews are good, 5 stars, 4.85 stars, highest rated book on Goodreads, all that. Words of Radiance, people saying it's really good as well, really bombastic, lots of action, really, really good book in that one. Oathbringer, great, 5 stars all round. And then people get to Rhythm of War and they're like, this is kind of the one where it starts falling flat. I am the one that will say, read it for yourselves, because, I'm not going to say that the critics got it wrong. I'm not going to say that BookTok got it wrong or anything else. I'm going to be the one to say that people have differing opinions, different tastes, and what hits for someone may not hit for you, and what hit for me may not hit for you as well. But if anything that I said in this video does kind of ring a bell and seem like that sounds interesting, maybe getting into this series isn't as much of a I've heard that it gets bad after book 3. I'm here to tell you that I didn't feel that at all with this. I didn't feel that at all. I will, however, let you know after book 5 if BookTok is correct about that one, or BookTube is correct about that one, and that one is less of a 8 or 9, more of a 6 or 7. I will let you know when I finish that book. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed. I do have a massive charity marathon planned over on Twitch during the month of December. Twitch streams happen on Twitch anyways. Usually start at 9 PM British time, end whenever they end. They end when they end. But yeah, I will be streaming every night from every night of December. We'll be raising money for Mind, mental health charity based in the UK, which is kind of apt that I've spent the whole year reading a series that is basically just reading about a load of people having mental health problems, and now I'm raising money for a charity that deals with mental health problems. It's kind of apt, and I didn't think about that at the time, but now I do, and I'm like, oh, it makes sense. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'll see you guys over on Twitch as well, hopefully. Peace. Oh yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Notice that in the last previous videos, 0% of the viewers was subscribed. There's over 100 views on that video as well. So that means could possibly be 100 more subscribers on the channel. Do with that information what you will. I'm not your fucking dad. I don't control what you have to do, what you do or don't do, but consider hit that subscribe button. It is free, and it doesn't take doesn't take too much to just tap the screen or click a button. Not a lot of people watching YouTube on their laptops anymore, but you know, it's a little bit more effort on the telly, but you know, it's not that much effort. So it's less effort to subscribe to a channel on the TV than it is to search for another video on TV. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed. Peace.